Hello and welcome back to An Artist Travels. I'm your host Nikki, and it has been a while since the last update, but I am super excited to be returning with a bang. This is an interview with the wonderful, the illustrious vocal coach and my very good friend Eleanor Manners. Eleanor Manners works as a facilitator, voice and dialect coach and a theatre maker across the UK. She has also worked as a voice coach on 7 Methods of Killing Kylie and is currently assisting Hazel Holder in her research for Get Up, Stand Up. As a theatre maker, she has worked as the associate director on large-scale musical The Wizard of Oz at Leeds Playhouse and has assisted on Searching for the Heart of Leeds. I first met Ellie, and throughout this interview I do refer to her as Ellie, in Leeds this year, working on her own project Tame, and we speak a bit more about that in the podcast episode. And even though we met earlier this year, I feel like I've known her for a lot longer than that, and that's just down to Ellie's warmth. She's such a brilliant, vibrant person, and while we were working together, I was really struck by her thoughtfulness, her dedication, and her work ethic. She is working on so many incredible shows, such as Is God Is, which was recently on at the Royal Court, Teller's Run It Back, and of course, as I mentioned, The 7 Methods of Killing Kylie Jenner, which I was very blessed to go see on its opening night. At the time of recording this interview, Run It Back hadn't actually opened yet, and Is God Is was just about to go into its opening night. I have now seen both shows, so I can personally speak to the creative imagination of each of the team members involved. But of course, I specifically have to big up my girl Ellie for her incredible vocal talent on such a wide-ranging body of work. All the shows that I was excited to see, she has worked on them. It's incredible. So in this episode, we chatted about how she got to where she is. She shared some of her own tips for actors when it comes to embodying different voices. And she also taught me some really interesting facts about how accents are affected by our environment. I'm sure you're going to enjoy listening to this episode as much as I enjoyed sitting down with her. So now, without any further ado, let's welcome Eleanor to the audio stage. Hello! Hey Ellie, how you doing?
Hello! Yes, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming onto the Artist Toolkit. It's really great to have you.
You're very welcome. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah. So how's your day been so far? Let's start with that.
I have had the laziest day. It's a Saturday. I've just been watching TV, chilling, winding down. I've had quite a busy week. Yeah, nice.
Nice. That's the way to do it. I mean, it's a Saturday. For anyone listening, it's a Saturday we're recording, so it's like the best time to chill. And also, you've been super busy recently and always, so I feel like you deserve that rest.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, but that's all right.
Yeah, but it's good. It's all exciting stuff. We'll get to all of that cool stuff in a moment. But I'm really eager to talk to you about your work as a vocal and a dialect coach, and also as a facilitator. You do loads of different things. I was wondering if you could give the listeners a little sense of how you got into voice, because I know you did your BA at Arden School of Drama, and then you went on and you did your MA in professional voice. So What was that? I mean, was there a key pivotal module for you during your BA where you thought, oh, I'm really interested in the voice aspect, or was that something you were always interested in?
I think so. I did my BA in acting, and I think throughout anyone's BA in acting, or when they're trained to be an actor, it is so hammered into you, isn't it, that you are not going to be able to act full time. And if you are, then you're really, really lucky, and you probably won't be able to do that at the beginning, but maybe you'll be able to build that up. And so I think because I wanted to work in theatre from such a young age, I was kind of like, okay, how can I sustain a career in this without it just being based on my acting? I just really enjoyed voice lessons. I think they're a bit weird, aren't they? Like, it's an excuse to kind of chill out. You get to lay on the floor, which I very much enjoyed during my acting degree, to have some time just to breathe and time for yourself. I think, like in Western culture, we don't give enough time for ourselves. So I think that felt like quite an exciting thing. And also you just do all kinds of weird things. Like I remember definitely doing a session where we just pretended we were seaweed for the whole session, and we were like planted to the ground and just being all like, woo, like moving our bodies from side to side. And I thought, yeah, I'm weird enough to do this. So I actually did my voice MA straight after my acting MA and my acting BA. I didn't have a gap. I went straight into it, and I think towards the end of anyone's acting degree or acting course, there is like this sudden fear of like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my life? And I definitely had that fear, and I didn't really feel like I was ready for the real world maybe yet. So I thought, let's do another course. So yeah, I went to Birmingham School of Acting and did voice. Yeah, history, that's it.
I love that. That's great. I did the exact same thing after my BA. I was like, I'm not ready for life yet. Let me do an MA.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm so happy now, obviously, that I did my MA in voice, but actually I didn't need it. I think I'd say by the December or by the February at the very latest, I was so done. I was like, I'm done with education. I've been in it for, how many years were we in education? Like 13?
Like your whole life?
Yeah, my whole life. So I think realistically, if I was to go back, I would take a bit of a break and then do it. However, I'm really happy now that I've got it, and because I did it so early in my career, I've had a lot of time to grow in confidence before kind of being in really professional environments as a voice coach, which is good as well.
Yeah. What was that? It's really interesting because it was quite a pragmatic decision, which is quite nice. So you were kind of like, okay, in addition to acting, what else can I do? And then you were like, I have this extra additional skill. Can I ask if, is there any aspect of voice training that you specialized in, or any particular techniques that you prefer as a vocal coach?
I'm much more into the voice coaching than the dialect coaching, although I do a lot of accent and dialect coaching now. But I think it's not just the training of the voice, it's the working on text, which is the stuff that really initially interested me, and playing and see what you can do vocally to add more to your character, or to add more to the scene, or to, add more to whatever the situation is. And actually, especially when it comes to things like Shakespeare, but it doesn't have to be Shakespeare, how looking at something from a voice perspective can open things up for a lot of people, and it definitely opened things up for me. So that's where my passion is, but I just like working with people. I just love working with people.
Yeah, you're such a people person.
Yeah, I am. I think when I think about like who I am as a person and how I've grown and developed, it's quite interesting that I chose voice, because I am definitely, as a practitioner and just as a person, all about people having a voice and saying how they feel and feeling empowered. So then the fact that I trained in voice, it kind of all meshes together, really. Yeah. That is a complete fluke, complete accident.
You never know. Things happen for a reason. It's perfect. So you've done your MA. What has the journey been like? It's a big question. Between finishing the studies and sort of entering the world of vocal coaching, like how was that transition? What did that look like for you?
My journey has been unusual, I would say, potentially. So I had to work. I am in the position where I had to support myself. So I had to find work when I finished my MA, and surprise, surprise, I did not go straight into an acting job, and I did not go straight into a voice coach job. I actually did like a lot of drama facilitation, which is great because I love facilitating. It's something that I still do, and it's given me a lot. So I did like a lot of playing a day at schools, and a bit of stage coach, teaching little ones, all of that kind of stuff. And then I went for a job that said ad hoc drama lecturer, I think it said, or ad hoc drama coach, but it was at a college. And I thought, I could do with another ad hoc thing, so I'll just add that in, and then it means I'll have a few different drama jobs all added together, freelancing, it'll make enough money. So I went for the interview. By the end of the interview, they'd offered me 2.5 days a week. I was like, oh God.
Ad hoc.
Okay. That's not what I was thinking, ad hoc, but I also wasn't in the position to be like, no. So I had to say yes. So I did that. I worked at that college for a year, and then I moved to another college and did the whole getting my teaching qualification. I think when I trained in voice, I also had in the back of my mind at some point I would be a lecturer anyway. So even though it felt like a diversion, not as much of a diversion as it maybe sounds, because I was lecturing in performing arts. So in total I did that for about 3 academic years, and then thought, actually, do you know what? Your 20s are for playing a little bit. Let's try something slightly different. So I left. I had an acting job at Leeds Playhouse. I did that, and then I had nothing else. I had nothing else. And then, then I ended up getting another full-time job, actually, but at Leeds Playhouse, working in creative engagement. I should say, during those years, so that's probably about, about a 4-year span. I did do 2 or 3 drama school mini lecturing positions. So I went to LIPA, I went to Alara North, and did like short stints teaching voice. So I was still keeping those skills going. And then as a performing arts lecturer, because a lot of my students were foundation degree, I was using a lot of my voice coaching then as well. Just in a different context to maybe what I initially thought. And then I worked in creative engagement, or still work actually at the moment in creative engagement at Leeds Playhouse, and it's really given me so much breadth of experience, like working with young people from the age of 5 all the way up to older people. I think maybe the oldest person I've worked with is definitely in their late 70s, maybe early 80s. So I just work with everybody from all walks of life. Students, not students, professional actors, not professional actors, people in the community, people come to sessions, just everywhere, and refugees and asylum seekers. And that experience has definitely massively built my confidence, and I think it adds a lot to the practice that I now use as a voice coach as well, and obviously as a facilitator. I don't think there is a group of people that I haven't worked with in terms of a type of people. I know that's a bit weird to put people into types, but you see what I'm saying. And then I'd say I started branching out again actually towards the beginning of the pandemic with voice coaching. So I started working at Leeds Conservatoire, which is a brand new drama school training. I think the course is just so brilliant. I actually only ended up doing 1 term with them because then I was doing an R&D for my own show. And the pandemic has just moved everything around, hasn't it? Yep. Literally moved everything around. I'd say what I've learned, the thing about voice coaching is definitely within theatre, it's a very, very small world, and it is very rare that there is an advertisement out for a job. I would say the one theatre advert for voice coach I've seen in my entire career was for Matilda. There was a massive call out for Matilda voice coaches, and there has been a few times. Yeah. Other than that, they're all lecturer positions, so not necessarily on shows, unless it's like 3rd year shows. So what also happened towards the beginning of the pandemic, or the December before, Jeanette Nelson at the National Theatre put a big call out being like, we need more voice coaches. We have a real shortage of voice coaches of ethnic minority, global majority voice coaches, and kind of being like, there are only 2 black voice coaches, I think this advert said, in the whole country. And I replied a bit shirty, like, excuse me.
Wow. What an assumption. Well, 2 that they've worked with, clearly.
2 that they know of and that they've worked with. And to be fair to her, there are 2 places in the country at the moment to train. So, she would assume that she would know all of them, which is fine. Right. I sent a bit of a, not shirty email, but being like, hello, I'm here, I'm a voice coach. I've actually been, qualified for quite a long time. And her reply was just so lovely, and she just really wanted to meet me. That scared me. I was like, oh my gosh, why did I email the head of voice at the National Theatre? Why did I do that? She's like, come and meet me. So I kind of put that off, if I'm honest, for a couple of months. And then in January 2020, I was like, Ellie, come on now. So I went down to National Theatre and met her and came out with my first job. Which was to work on public acts, which was actually taking place at Cast in Doncaster, but it's a co-production also with the National Theatre, and it's also a community production. So given the experience I'd built working in creative engagement, it felt like a brilliant opportunity. Sadly, that production still hasn't happened. They've had to change it because of the pandemic, but I made my first connection. And then through Jeanette Nelson, I've also connected with Hazel Holder and been working a lot over the last year and a bit now with her, doing research on shows with her, and then also working together on shows. So firstly, researching accents and dialects just during the pandemic because we knew shows were coming up. And then since things have opened, actually working on shows again. And now, I'm starting to work on shows on my own as well. So it's really good, and Hazel is just brilliant. She's just a brilliant woman as well as an amazing voice and dialect coach. But she has a real passion for us to work together and kind of say there are not many of us in the UK in this industry. So actually, let's become an associate. Let's work as a pool together, which is quite a new way of working. It's not normal that you have more than one voice coach on a show. But actually, it makes things a lot more manageable. It means that the actors get a more breadth of experience because they're hearing from more than one person. And it means that me, Hazel, and a few others can really pool together and try and work on all the shows that are going on at the moment. So I know that you'll know, but as a result of Black Lives Matter last year, basically a lot of theatres are now doing lots of shows that are written by Black playwrights or produced by Black producers or all of those things. But often those productions need dialects that are from the African diaspora. And so it would be better if then the person teaching those accents also has some connection with that kind of background. So it means we're currently absolutely inundated because you'll have seen how many shows there are going on. Which, balancing with what was, but not quite now, a full-time job in creative engagement has been interesting. But we've done it.
I feel like you are working on I feel like, okay, so after, not that we're coming out of the pandemic, but coming out of lockdown, looking at the shows that were on, every single show that caught my eye, or I was like, I need to see that, I'm pretty sure you're working on. I'm like, Ellie, you're everywhere. It's amazing. I love that for you. It's so great.
I've been really, really lucky. To have those opportunities. And in such a short space of time as well.
Yeah, and it's really nice that, as you were saying, that the team are very supportive. So like Hazel's actually supporting you and you're both supporting each other, as opposed, because sometimes it sucks if it becomes like a competitive thing of like, oh, there aren't many of us, so I need to go in and grab this job or opportunity or whatever. But it's really nice that it's something very...
No,
open.
Absolutely not. And it's been very open. And actually, even before maybe we knew how much work there was going to be, I do remember having a conversation with Hazel being like, there is enough work for all of us. There doesn't need to be any competition. Bearing in mind at the moment, I've just done theatre. There is also film. There is also TV, which are also calling out for the same skills. So yeah.
Yeah, right. Why don't let's talk specifically about some of the shows that you've been working on. There's loads to choose from. Let's start with 7 Methods of Killing Kylie Jenner, which is on at the Royal Court, which I got to see on its first ever opening night. Which is very exciting. And I really loved it. And we had a little chat afterwards about the show. And I was wondering if you could talk a bit about your experience working on that show. Like, what was the process like for you?
I felt so lucky to be able to work on that show because it is a brilliant show. I hadn't seen it the first time it was on at the Royal Court, but I had read it, so I knew that it was brilliant. So when it came up, I was really excited to work on that. Also because there are very few voice coaches, I'm one of the younger ones, and so it felt like it would make sense for it to be me who worked on it because it is such a millennial Gen Z, probably more Gen Z really, I'm a bit old, in terms of like the language that it uses, in terms of the culture around the way we use the internet and all of those things. Really brilliant process. Millie is she's a brilliant director and she puts everybody at ease. Like there isn't any kind of hierarchy in the room. She talks a lot about we're making this together. as a voice coach, it's a weird one because you kind of pop in and out of rehearsals. Obviously, it would be an absolute luxury to be there all the time, but there often is not the money for that. So because I'm based up north, it started with both Hazel and I working on the accents and dialects. The actors do, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine how many. They do a lot of accent and dialects, but it's only singular lines. So we were more working on more of a general version of those accents rather than getting too specific because they're so fleeting. So yeah, we worked on Zoom actually a lot for the accents and dialects. We had weekly sessions on Zoom with the actors. So the actors were in the rehearsal room and Hazel and I were in our own houses, partly because of the pandemic, but also I think that's kind of where things are going anyway. Especially with accent and dialect work, it actually works quite well online. And then when it got a bit further into the rehearsal process, I would go to the rehearsals, take notes of their runs, do warm-ups with the actors. We try to have a WhatsApp group with the actors so that during the run, if they've got any like panic or worries or want to ask a question, they can just WhatsApp it over to us and we can get back to them quite quickly. And generally just giving them advice. I think, 7 Methods of Killing, Kylie and Jenna was the first show back open at the Royal Court. And we've got to remember those actors have also had a break as well. So, their bodies aren't used to it. So we really did have to go quite slowly and really try and give them confidence and look after them and make sure that they felt like we were always there to be able to help. Because it's a big thing, isn't it? Being back in a theatre after all that time. And your voice is, for most actors, depending on, who the actor is, it's part of their craft, isn't it? So they need it.
Yeah.
And they need to take care of it. Yeah.
Great. That's really interesting to hear that a lot of it was online and that we might be shifting that way in general. How do you find it teaching online? What are the major differences between that and in person? Do you feel quite happy that you're able to achieve everything you want to online?
I think there's pros and cons. Being online, the session can more easily fit into the rehearsal schedule in terms of, if things are running a little bit late and I've got time, I could have a text message from a stage manager being like, can we move it by half an hour? And that's fine. If it's in person, you kind of really fixed to that, aren't you? Especially with me who's like travelled from the north to like get to session on time. If it then moves, it doesn't really work quite as well. I think with accent and dialect, working online is also really good because I will often play clips of things or we'll watch things together or I can show them the notes and things that I've made and we can just, share screen and see everything together rather than having like loads of bits of paper. It automatically, I'm looking more closely at someone's face when you're on Zoom because that's all you can see.
Yeah.
And often a dialect isn't just about the sounds that you make, it's about the positions of your jaw and your tongue and kind of the whole, vocal structure. So that's a positive. I think the thing that Zoom, which we've all maybe realised is you don't necessarily get a feel for how that person actually is. When you're in a rehearsal room, you get a feeling, don't you? Like, are they okay? Are they not okay? So that bit worries me a little bit because I also want to look after the people that I'm working with as much as I can. And definitely accents and dialects or anything, it can be quite anxiety making. So, it can be a bit harder with that. But I think there's a lot of pros to it. Working in a room in terms of looking after their voices, I think is really important. I don't think you can't do that quite as well on Zoom because you can't see the intricacies of how they're using their body on a camera as you can when you're in a space and you can see everything, front, back, side, everything.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, that's something that I've been thinking about a little bit because during lockdown, I've done like a few voice sessions online. And I was like, oh, why have we never done this before? I feel like I'm getting so much out of it. And I never even thought about, this is something that perhaps could be done online. And it sounds like for the show that you had a nice mix of some of it was online, but then you were traveling in, obviously. So you spoke about earlier about how you're really passionate about text. And so just for people listening who haven't read the text yet, it's formatted in a really interesting way, because the show looks a lot at, like appropriation, but also cancel culture. And there's a lot of like Twitter mention, and things are literally written and laid out as like tweets and things like that. Did that change your approach to things? Because I'm assuming, like, let's say it's like we were saying earlier about like Shakespeare, there's like a very specific meter and a rhythm. And so in terms of it being a different layout on the script, did that change your approach to how you did your sessions? Or
it would change the approach to how we looked at things. I would say for that particular show, it didn't massively change my approach because the show was being remounted. So a lot of that work had already been done. And I think Millie could feed some of that stuff in. However, the show that I'm currently working on at the Royal Court is God Is. Has a similar thing in terms of the way it's laid out on the page. There's lots of gaps. Things are often that follow each other on different lines. The text is in different sizes. And so we do have conversations with the actors about what does that mean, and what can you do with that vocally to commit to what the playwright has written on the page. And that conversation has come from Ola, who's directing it, but I've also had those conversations with the actors as well, and helping them unlock the full potential of their voice, of what they could potentially do. And then they can offer lots of things in rehearsals to Ola, and then she can pick and choose on what feels right.
Right, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Something else I noticed as well was how the actors would, because as you said, like, it would be one-liners when they're working in different accents and things like that. I'm just really curious. This is me being curious from an acting perspective. Were there things that you had to put in place with the actors, almost, I guess, like hooks or keys into switching that accent or that voice?
Yeah, so I'd say on 7 Methods of Killing Kylie Jenner, like, it's a really physical show anyway. And me and Hazel did a lot of work on what is the physicality of that person, not just the physicality of the accent, because different accents do carry a different physicality or suggest a different way of using your body, but also what is the physicality of that character, and that physicality that we're then linking with the accent, so that when that actor automatically takes on that character, they can feel that vocally. So that is yes, in their body, in their facial expression, how they're holding their mouth. Some accents have like a really hung loose jaw, which also then kind of fits with like a slower or a character who's a bit more laid back, but you can hear that in an accent as well. So it all kind of links together. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. And it's really evident I'm just thinking back to what I saw really evident in how they would like suddenly switch a posture and then it'd be a completely different voice coming out of their mouth. Yeah, that makes complete sense. I really enjoyed that show. And I feel like I came out of it saying that this is exactly what I want theatre to be doing. And I don't think I've said that about a show before, but I just came out with like this knowledge of, this is what I want theatre to do, which was nice because it was the first thing I saw out of lockdown. So it was amazing to have that thought and experience. Speaking of which, my friend went to see Run It Back, Towers production, literally this week, which you also worked on. And funnily enough, she said the exact same line to me. She messaged me and she was like, that was amazing. It's doing exactly what I want theatre to be doing. And I was like, what? So I'd love to talk about that. I'm going to be going and seeing it in the not next week, but the week after, which I'm really excited for. But yes, I've had this. No, sorry, you go.
No, please, you go first. Go.
I'm curious that I was literally just going to say I've heard that lots of things about that, but also that's another one where there's quite a few accents from the African diaspora and that. And I was wondering if you'd like to speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so just because of timing and things we've not managed to get in as many sessions as we would have liked in on Run It Back. But it's been a really good example of me and the other voice coaches sharing it. So some of those sessions another voice coach has done and some of them I've done, which has been really great. That voice coach is Joel Trill as well, so I think it's good that they have had the option to work with a male voice coach as well as a female one. So, Run It Back, yeah, there is an accent in it. There's a Bayesian accent at one point. I would say for going to watch Run It Back, just hold on to your seat. Like, the energy that those performers bring is just incredible. Like, the energy is brilliant. And we've had to talk a lot about, okay, how are you going to sustain that level of energy and how are you going to sustain yourself vocally? They do spend a lot of time speaking over music and dancing. So in terms of breath capacity, we've had to do a lot of work on that. Like, they are definitely out of breath. So then having a big speech when you're out of breath is not, an ideal situation. So we're working as best we can with their breath. And yeah, sustaining and the come down from that level of energy.
Could you speak a little bit as to just like practically maybe some exercises are that would help an actor to sustain their voice? Because there might be some people listening who are not theatre directors or actors. They might be like, how do you sustain your voice? What do you do?
So for me, sustaining is about proper vocal warm-up to begin with. Going through all of the parts that includes your body. Like, don't separate your body from your voice. Warm your body up, make sure you've got no excess tension, doing some breath exercises, and sustaining as well. The biggest thing in Run It Back is often in the real world, when we go on a night out, we get up in the morning, we're feeling hoarse, and that's because we've shouted and screamed over the music because we've got so into what's going on. So for the actors in Run It Back, they've got to pull that back and kind of pretend it and play that up a little bit, because if they actually do that, they're going to lose, their voice. So that's what I mean by pulling it back during the show. But in terms of sustaining, warming up before, warming down afterwards, so that your voice kind of resets itself. Yeah.
Great. That's a really good reminder. As you said that, I'm like, to warm down. I don't typically tend to warm down. So maybe that's something I should add.
Yeah, I think it depends on like what the show is. So there's certain accents I think it's always really important to warm down from, because the vocal positions are very different to your normal voice, and could cause excess tension. So warm down from that, unwind from that. Something like Run It Back is high energy. So yeah, just bring the energy back down, ground to the floor again, do some nice trills up and down the scale. Remind yourself, where does your voice naturally sit? Because actually the way we speak when we're on a night out is probably a little bit heightened. So, bring it back down. But there wouldn't be a negative of ever doing a warm down, really.
Yeah, that's a very, really good tip. Love that.
Yeah.
Can I ask about the themes? Actually, perhaps we should talk just a little bit about what Run It Back is about. This is what I've managed to glean from it, and of course I'm very excited to go see this in a couple of weeks. But I've gleaned it's set in a nightclub, and it's looking at, from what I've heard, different, I would say, Black people's experiences when it comes to sort of being out and about, and also exploring, I would say, Black music, and also how it affects, I would say, women specifically. I don't know if it's open to all genders. What I've heard is that there's like sections, without giving spoilers, that are looking at some of the lyrics in popular culture music and how that can be very degrading to women, but also kind of ends up being just not a great situation for anyone, really, because it sort of trains us to think a certain way and look at people a certain way. That's what I've got from it. You can tell me if I'm completely wrong, but
it's a party, but yeah, it's got some those themes running through and kind of things for us to sit back and think about. Do we want it to continue? How do we want to change things? Things to think on.
Right. So question leading off the back of that, which is, we were talking earlier as well about there not being that many Black vocal coaches like in the UK, which is crazy. But hopefully things are changing and we're developing. But how, or does it, like your own personal experiences as a Black woman, does that come into the rehearsal rooms, especially for pieces like Is God Is, for Run It Back, for 7 Methods?
Yeah, it does. And definitely for something like 7 Methods and a show that I've got coming up that I'm working with Hazel on at the Bridge. It comes into the rehearsal rooms because the themes of the show mean that ethnicity is being discussed and thought about. I think it's a real... I think as much as possible, if we could have access to voice coaches who fit with whatever the show is about, then that is brilliant. So for Is God Is, even though I'm working as a voice coach, I'm not working on it as a dialect coach, because their dialect coach is American. What a brilliant thing. Why would you not have that if you've got access to it? It's not always possible, but it gives... it makes a huge difference on Get Up, Stand Up. There's a few of us kind of working, and one of the voice coaches is from Jamaica. Why would we not have that when, you know, a lot of the actors in that are going to be doing a Jamaican accent? So I think if you can link those things together, and I think we're hoping the way that things will move forward is you don't just have to be, in terms of accent and dialect, you don't just have to be a voice coach to maybe work on that. You can work on something as a consultant because you're from that place and you understand the culture of that place, because an accent also has a lot to do with the culture and the way of life in that place. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like I've completely skirted around your question, but hopefully it was useful.
It makes total sense. And actually, it makes me think about... so we've done some online sessions before for a show, for a piece that I'm working on. And you were amazing and helped me with quite a few different accents. And I was really I just really loved your process of... because it's something I hadn't experienced before, of looking at culture before looking at the voice, and looking at how maybe a culture's movement or attitudes or approaches to certain things or music might influence how you approach the voice. And it's kind of similar to, I'd say, you know, the outside in acting technique. So if you're wearing a certain shirt or if you're walking a certain way, that's going to affect your character. And I was wondering if you might talk a little bit about just your approach and what it looks like in the room when you're looking at a culture before you're looking at the voice.
So I think for me, we can get voice coaches are often, or dialect coaches are often taught phonetics. So we learn the symbols for individual sounds, and what will happen from changing one accent to another, the sounds simply swap and you work out what sound has swapped to what, which is really useful. Most actors do not know phonetics. So me showing them these random symbols is not necessarily helpful. It's probably more overwhelming. I am a qualified voice coach. I do use phonetics, but I also find them overwhelming myself. Never mind being someone who has never come across it, because literally every single sound in any language has a symbol.
Okay.
Any sound. The word sound has 3 sounds in it. So there is ow. In fact, it's got 4. Do you know what I mean? They've all got different symbols. So it is overwhelming. And then also, I think you can get all the sounds right. But if you haven't got the essence of the accent right, then it never sounds quite whole. And that essence could be because it's an accent from a city, so there's a swag that goes with that. Or it could be an accent that's from a really, really small village, and so there is a delicateness to it, and that comes from understanding the way that people live and the way that people feel in that place. And so to start with, we just play some music. We play some music from that place, wherever it is, and we move and we enjoy it and we feel it in our bodies. To start with, to just start getting, a bit of that essence of what that place is before we start getting bogged down with sounds. And actually, quite naturally, it feels easier to take on the sounds. I've done that with quite a few accents. I remember doing it in my training, actually, with one of the voice coaches I was training with, and she was from San Francisco. And she did her dissertation actually on learning accents in a more physical way. and she took us through a session with, I think she was playing French music because it was a French accent, and we just had to walk around and think like, what does a French person feel like? And you know, they are so, there's a smoothness to the way that we perceive what it's like to be French, or like there's a romance, and there's there isn't a rush, like you take your time, and I would say that that's also what the accent sounds like. Yeah, does that help? Am I making sense?
That makes so much sense. Yeah, because sometimes
I feel like I'm rabbiting.
No, it's great. No, it makes so much sense. What was I thinking about? It made me think about the difference between being good at something technically, but then also putting a bit of passion and flair and soul into something. So
and selling it and making people believe it.
Yes,
that's the extra.
Yeah, because it's like with any art form, isn't it? Really, like you can, like I write. I mean, you can teach anyone to write in a way, but if you haven't brought your own authorial tone and style to the piece, why have you written it?
Exactly.
Or you could build something, but technically it could be very proficient, but if there isn't that believability and authenticity to it, then it doesn't do anything. So that's what that made me think of.
It's also tightly connected with the rhythm of the accent or of the language. The rhythm of that language is so linked with how those people are and how they live. Often, you know, faster accents or faster ways of speaking might be linked with quite busy places, or you know, more slow and drawn out are then those who like kind of take their time or live on a beach or by the countryside, or do you know what I mean? It is all kind of linked together. A really interesting thing is that up north we move our mouths a lot. I move my mouth a lot when I when I speak, and actually you can't properly do a northern accent without well, it's not overusing your mouth, but I do, compared to down south. Right. Whereas down south they don't, and that the history of that is to do with the smog in London, and people didn't want to open their mouths because they were going to get all the smog in their mouth. Whereas then up north, where all the mines were, because people were down the mines, they could maybe see but not necessarily hear sometimes, and so people would over pronounce what they were saying to make sure it was really clear. So that's what I mean. It's about the way that we live.
Yeah, that's amazing. The body is so fascinating because that's like such an embodied thing, like passed through generations, and now it affects the way we speak. That is fascinating. Oh, I love that. I bet you've got like loads of interesting voice facts like that. I have to pick you up after the podcast and be like, Ellie, tell me more. Should we talk about Is God Is? Because you haven't spoken about that one as much. Can I ask, rogue question, have there been any challenges you've experienced during this production?
No. For me, it's been brilliant. Ola is brilliant because she really values voice work, and she wants the actors to have as much of it as possible, and they are in a lucky enough position to have some budget for that. So we've been able to go in, they've had a session at least every week, and that is with me literally on their voice, the sound of their voice, the way they use their voice, but they've also had a session I think every week, if not more than once a week, on the accent and dialect. So it's a really privileged position to be in. I've worked... Every show works a bit differently, and so unlike with Run It Back, all the sessions that I've done have been with the whole company together, which is brilliant for creating a sense of ensemble and then working together and thinking about their sound together. On Is God Is, I've done a couple of sessions all together to kind of build how we warm up, how we think about our voices, but then a lot of the sessions have been with individuals, which is then also really great for like really fine tuning and looking in at what each person needs. So it's been brilliant. That show is not quite open yet, got a little bit longer. I am not back until Friday next week, which is preview 1. So I'm really excited to see. And you said about challenges. I think the only challenge I'd say on this show, but on any show that I've worked on so far, is just the amount of time that actors have had off.
Right.
And you know, performing is a workout, so you've got to build up the stamina, haven't you? And so I had a conversation with one actor recently about, actually I need to step it up vocally in rehearsals. And this is really normal for actors, actually. You kind of have a level of how you do things in the rehearsal room, and then you get into the theatre and it's like, oh, this isn't big enough. Like, I need to up it, and I'm upping it a bit too late, and so I haven't built up the stamina that I needed. Yeah. So I think I would definitely encourage directors or anyone who works on shows to, even if you're in a tiny rehearsal room, like, always be thinking about the size of the space that you are working for. I think we're used to thinking that in terms of our bodies and our facial expressions, but we forget about it vocally, because we're worried, especially I think maybe it's a British thing, we're worried about being too loud or being too much, and it feels really unnatural, but actually that is not going to carry in a theatre. So up it as early as you can to help build up that stamina and build the vocal muscles. And also, I would rather, if you're going to have a vocal issue, if you're using it at the full capacity, that vocal issue will then come out during rehearsals rather than waiting until the show started.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, okay, there's something now, you know?
Yeah, that's so true. It's like, I hear a lot of dance teachers say this, and they say, how you rehearse it is how you perform it. So instead of just like marking the thing and then being like, oh, I'm performing now, let's go, your body will remember that. It has like its own memory. So it's gonna be like, exactly. It will do it half-heartedly if you don't rehearse it full out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's such a no. You're right. I've never thought about it in terms of that linking to dance, but it is the same. And dance teachers do say that, don't they? Because your body, it's the memory of your body, but so is your voice. Like, the memory of your body to be like, okay, don't tense at this moment, let go. How do I be free? How do I freely project in this really emotional moment without creating tension? That is about your body as well as about what you sound like. So you got to practice it.
Yeah, such a good point. I love that. I feel like I'm learning so much, which is great. I feel like this podcast is such a learning experience for me as well. People just say such wise things. I'm like, bring in the full energy in the rehearsal, of course.
Bring the full energy.
Yeah, I mean, it's great, I think, motto to have in life in general. So
I was working on clippies as well at the Young Vic, and we did that mixture as well of online Zoom accent and dialect stuff, and then in person for voice related things. And I can't remember why I brought that one up, but maybe I was just name dropping. Maybe I was just like, I'm just going to drop this other show in. I don't know what I was doing, but anyway.
Listen, I mean, was it to do, we were talking about doing things with full energy? Was it related?
I think maybe it was. Yeah, I think it was. And yes, because also a while ago you asked me about the negatives of being online. And even if I've read the script, but I've not been in the rehearsal room until the week before it's on fully. It's hard to know sometimes what the energy of that script needs, or how it's come to fruition, because what it says on the page is not necessarily the same as how it actually is. So for that one I ended up coming to being in rehearsal quite late, but that was also because of COVID. Like, not a lot could have been done with that, and that was partly like restrictions, and then partly things are not quite as restricted, but actually traveling from the northern end of the country to the southern end of the country is probably not the most the best thing to be doing right now. So hopefully things will get easy with that, and I'll be able to get into things a bit earlier.
I mean, what can you do with COVID, right? You just gotta keep adjusting. But I mean, we were really very blessed to have 2 entire weeks working together despite COVID. Lots of face visors and things like that. For those listening, we were working on Ellie's baby, Ellie's creation. We did an R&D of it up at Leeds Playhouse where you work. And I thought it would be really cool to talk about that, because we've spoken a lot about you working on some other productions, but am I right in saying, was this your first R&D, right? Your first R&D that you've led. Do you want to talk a little bit about Well, firstly, what the concept was and how the idea for it came about to you.
Yeah, so I'm still working on it at the moment, but yes, that was the first R&D. The next one probably isn't going to be till next year. So the show, we're hoping, might be called Tame, who knows, working title. And basically it's about black hair, but it's aimed at young people. Probably young people around the age of 9, 10, 11. Let's see what comes. And just the struggle of like coming to terms with your hair, about Eurocentric beauty standards, and how our hair, Afro hair, is the direct opposite of those standards. You know, the amount of times as a kid that I was asked like, how long is your hair? And I'm like, well, it's quite a hard question to ask because my hair grows up and out, not down. So like people would be like, show me on your face, how long is it? And I'm like, I can't really do that because I can show you how far out from my head it comes. And then I can try and like, you know, maneuver my hands to like give that a length. But it doesn't work in that way.
The day I realised that was the day, because I feel like I realised that a lot later than you, because I was not, I think I was probably in my teens, where I was like, my hair does grow. It just grows out.
It just goes in a different direction. Yeah. But also, I think that is magical, and I think that's part of what we're doing in the R&D and what I want to continue to explore. Like, there is something really magical about the fact that Afro hair basically defies gravity. Like, it's going, gravity? No, I'm not going to listen. I'm going to do whatever I want. Yeah, like, how does it do that? It's so amazing. And the only other likeness I can think in the world when that happens is when you watch films that are based in space. And the actors take their helmets off and their hair's like flying all over the place. I'm like, yeah, mine does that in the morning. Mine does that in the morning. So yeah, that's the concept at the moment, and we are exploring and thinking about what is the best way to empower young people. Not just black young people, but also kind of raise awareness and tell lots of other young people that it's okay to be whatever it is that you've got. How do we do that with young people who are not necessarily from families that are traditional theatre goers? How do we get them to come? How do we make it enticing for them? And yeah, how do we get them leaving feeling really joyous and like they've been seen? I'm also really interested in involving somehow the parents or carers in that, and then either seeing a slightly different performance, or I'm not really sure yet, we're still working this out, but how can we educate and make them ready? Because it's also okay to go in and be like, yes, all young people, all black young people are going to come out being like, yes, I'm going to do what the hell I want with my hair and nobody's going to tell me. But actually the world still isn't ready for that. There are still schools that have ridiculous rules, in my opinion, around how you should or shouldn't wear your hair. There are young people who have been excluded for having their hair out in afros or wearing dreadlocks. There is the obvious thing of someone reaching out to touch your hair because it's in a certain style, or walking down the street and being stared at. So I don't just want to make young people feel empowered and enjoyed and then not prepared for that, because that is going to happen, unfortunately, in the world that we're living in. And I think some of that also comes from, preparing parents and and creating a conversation within the family for that.
I love that. That's so lovely. And what you were saying about having the parents and carers involved is so important, especially when you're making a piece of theatre for children. It's like a huge part of their world, because they don't have full autonomy yet. So you can empower them, but their carers need to be empowered as well. And like, teachers need to be empowered as well, and these kinds of things. So were there any lessons that you came out of with the R&D? Because we're working in quite an interesting way. We had 3 directors, which was very exciting, very new, and some wonderful actors, and we had 2 BSL interpreters as well. And I think that was just like a new way of working for all of us. So did you come up with any lessons and things you want to develop?
Yeah, I think so even though we had 2 weeks and wanted to explore this show, and we had a really great time, and the Arts Council was also about exploring the process of having more than one person in charge in a room. What does that do? I wanted to try and break down the traditional hierarchy, which I think theatre is breaking that down more and more, but I guess I took it even further. And I think that works for devising. The devising can't all just come from one person. Lessons, though, it is slow. It is slower when one person isn't in charge. It's slow because you're not just going in one direction, so it slows things down and you need more time, which is a bit of a luxury. We worked with an actor who has deafness, and so we had 2 BSL interpreters. Alex was just brilliant, and the perfect person for this production. And I think learning from working with Alex, I mean, like I said before, I've worked in creative engagement, so I've worked with a lot of different kinds of people. But my learning was making sure that everybody in the rehearsal room was on the same page and is prepared for that. And how do I bring that together and make sure that Alex can be part of everything as much as possible? Because you can tell people that, but everyone's used to working in the way that they're used to working. And so I think I did spend quite a lot of time kind of like, oh, can we just say that again? Or can we just stop? Because certain people in the room have missed things. So that's just a learning thing. And I'm not sure there's 100% an answer to that yet, but we will get there. I guess the other learning was around, we had 2 days on Zoom, partly because the theatre was shut because it's bank holidays. That's definitely a learning. Like the luxury of being able to be off on a bank holiday.
I feel like that's just such a freelancer life. It's like we just had a bank holiday just gone, and I don't think I knew it until the day before. Someone was like, "Oh, it's bank holiday tomorrow." I was like,
yeah.
"Oh yeah, okay."
Yeah.
Doesn't affect
like,
me. Okay.
It's like, oh gosh, now I've got to factor this in. That wasn't it was fine. We were okay, but not ideal. I think the other learning, which is shameful of me and maybe I should have known, there are not as many Black creatives up north. There's so many less than I hoped or I thought. And so finding people was quite tricky. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm just thinking about all the creators we had. And I didn't mention as well, but we had a really amazing live DJ throughout.
Yes, we did.
Big up to DJ Nicknack.
Oh, DJ Nicknack. What a brilliant woman. We're going to be working together on something else, hopefully, so that's really exciting. But she, that was a bit of an awakening for her as well, because up until that point, she'd done DJing in a traditional DJing context. So suddenly then us being like, can you just bring this into a rehearsal room?
Can you devise with us?
Can you devise with us? But she's not just a DJ. She got up, she acted, she played, and she took on all of the crazy music and sound requests that we gave her with absolute grace.
Oh yeah. With like no time, we were like, could you we want an ambience where just envision a child has gone into a jungle and then her hair turns into a snake. Yeah, got it. Off you go.
Cool. And she did it. She was
like, sure, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, she's magic. I don't know how she did that, but she hit it every time. And the day that we didn't have her, also a learning curve. Horrendous. I'm not letting her do that again. Yes. I'm going to be like, no, we need you, because when you're not here, I have to be in charge of the music. And people were laughing at my choices, so I don't have talent in that area, and that is okay.
Oh, that was such a good time. I'm excited to hear that you're still developing it, and hopefully second R&D is on the horizon.
Hopefully on the horizon.
Tame part 2.
Yeah. Tame part 2. Got to do an arts council though, haven't you? That's the way of the world.
You can do it. You've done it once. So it's just progression.
I also want a Black producer, so probably female, but we'll see. Would be really good if possible.
Yeah,
but there's few of us. Have a think. Call out. No, there's a few of us. There's not many of us at all.
Sometimes it just takes some looking. You really have to look.
Yeah, it takes time, and that's always against you, isn't it? A little bit, but I'm going to do my best to find the right person.
Yeah, awesome. It's important. I have a few quick round questions.
Oh, okay.
I have 4 questions here. and I just want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Just to close us off, because it's always fun. They're a bit
I
random.
hope I don't say anything.
They're not
I hope I don't say anything rude.
theatrical.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Okay, number 1. What is your favourite play of all time?
Oh gosh, I find this such a hard question. Currently, my favourite play of all time, it has to be Seven Methods of Killing Kylie Jenner, because I just had the best time working on it. I think it's an absolute zeitgeist of our time, and it was the perfect thing to open the time that had just happened. So I'm just going to say that one.
Yes. That's a great answer. Love that. Number 2, if you could go anywhere in the world right now, where would you go and why?
Oh God, there's so many places I want to go, but I really want to go to Cuba. I've always wanted to go to Cuba. Recently, I've been on YouTube watching some like holidays in Cuba destination kind of like videos, which has absolutely seduced me. But also the reason I want to go to Cuba is really shameful. It's because when I was younger, I used to love Dirty Dancing too, which is set in Havana. It's the truth.
Hey, I mean, what better reason to go?
Yeah, but it's a city, it's got beaches, Havana, like it's got everything. It's great.
Yeah.
I'll go there.
Nice, love it. Number 3 is, what are your favourite hobbies? What do you do in your downtime?
Oh, one of my favourite hobbies sounds really snooty. So I like walking my dog and listening to podcasts. I always listen to self-improvement podcasts, but I'm trying to push myself out of that just to listen to fun stuff, because not everything has to be serious. And my other hobby is interior design, which sounds really snobby, but I just like being a bit creative and slapping paint on the walls. Or actually, truthfully, getting my partner to slap paint on the walls that I've told him to put there.
So are you working on any projects at the moment in the house?
We're not. We need to repaint the stairs and landing area. Guys, I live up north. Houses are a bit cheaper up north, so I'm not like minted. I also really like looking for like furniture pieces, but like cheaper versions of the fashionable stuff that's out there.
Okay.
Love it. You know, bit of Matalan. You know, cult furniture. This is not an advertisement, guys, but that's where you can get the bargains from. Sponsored by Matalan. I've also got some really good things on eBay and Facebook Marketplace, and you can get stuff delivered from all over the country, I discovered. Like on this, I can't remember what it was called, just hired a van who were coming in this direction anyway, and they brought me my dressing table from London. It's brilliant.
Oh, lovely. I love that. Yeah. That's great. That's fun. That doesn't sound snooty at all. I think that sounds fun. Oh, and the last of the quickfire round is, what is your life motto? Like, is there a phrase you feel like you just resonate with?
Oh, there's probably loads, isn't there? Life motto. I think eventually everybody will get in what they put in. You'll get out what you put in, eventually. Might take sometimes longer. Kind of. I don't know, maybe it's not that actually. Now I'm thinking about it more, I'm like, oh gosh. No, yeah, I just did a project on health inequalities and I'm like, no, some of those, no, it's not true.
You're
actually.
like, sounds nice, but is that true?
No, it's not true.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have got one actually.
Yes, go.
We're not in control. I have to remind myself that all the time, no matter how much you think you are.
Say it again.
You're not in control. You're not in control.
This girl needs to learn this.
Yeah, you're not. You're not.
I like that.
Let's go with that one.
And then one final question. This is not in the quick fire round, so feel free to elaborate if you would like. Which is, what are your, like, I guess, future plans when it comes to vocal directing, and you do work as directing and facilitation? Like, where would you like to be? Are there any particular projects or like dream people or venues that you'd like to work with? Like, where would you like to go next from here?
I definitely like to, in terms of voice coaching, I would like to branch out into a bit of film and TV if I was lucky enough. I would love to be lucky enough to go and work abroad somewhere on a set.
Maybe Cuba.
Would be maybe Cuba, you never know. That would be really good. I think for me, like I would like to make this show that we've talked about. because I just wish I'd seen it when I was younger. So that's definitely a goal. The other goal, which maybe sounds a bit sad, but I just want to stay in this industry. I just want to stay and be able to sustain a career in this, because it's hard.
Yeah, it's no small feat. So
yeah, that's what I want forever.
Yeah,
I'll probably never get to retire if I do that, but that's okay. So we'll say forever.
you'll be 80, like, don't worry. I'm coming to rehearsal.
I'm coming slowly, but I'm coming.
Oh, thank you so much, Ellie. This has been such a joy talking with you. I hope you've enjoyed being on the podcast. And yeah, this has been great. I just know that listeners are going to get so much value out of this. So thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Oh, thank you for asking me. It's been such a lovely hour of just chit chat and giggles.